If you're a man over 40, I need you to stop whatever you're doing and pay close attention to what I'm about to share with you. Because what's happening inside your body right now, silently, gradually, without any obvious warning signs, is something that will eventually affect nearly every single man alive. Your prostate is growing. It's been growing since you were 25 years old. Not 60, not 70, 25. And it hasn't stopped since. Most men have absolutely no idea this is already happening because in the early years, there are no symptoms, no pain, no obvious signs, just silent, steady growth, driven by hormones that your body produces every single day. But here's where it gets serious. By the time you reach 60, there is roughly a 50% chance that this growth has already progressed far enough to start disrupting your daily life. And by the time you reach 80, that number climbs to nearly 90%. We're talking about waking up 3, 4, sometimes 5 times every single night just to use the bathroom. A urinary stream so weak and interrupted, it barely resembles what it used to be. That constant maddening sensation that your bladder never truly empties no matter how long you stand there. And that sudden, overwhelming urgency that hits you out of nowhere at the absolute worst possible moments. It affects your sleep. It destroys your confidence. It chips away at your daily comfort and your quality of life in ways that are hard to fully describe unless you've lived through it. But here's what nobody is talking about. The solution, or at least a powerful, evidence-based piece of it, is not sitting on a pharmacy shelf. It's not a prescription waiting to be written. It might literally be sitting in your pantry right now. And today I'm going to walk you through exactly what the science says, why it works at the deepest hormonal and cellular level, and precisely how to use it. So let's start at the root of the problem. Because once you truly understand what's driving prostate enlargement, everything else clicks into place. The prostate gland sits just below your bladder and wraps around the urethra, the tube that carries urine out of your body. In a young man, the prostate is roughly the size of a walnut, small, compact, not causing any trouble. But starting around age 25, triggered primarily by hormonal changes, the prostate enters what scientists call a second growth phase. And unlike the growth spurt you went through as a teenager, this one never stops. The medical term for this is benign prostatic hyperplasia. Benign meaning it is not cancer. Hyperplasia meaning abnormal increase in the number of cells in a tissue or organ. It is not dangerous in the life-threatening sense, but it is progressive, and left unaddressed, it becomes increasingly disruptive with every passing decade. Now here is the critical piece of biology you need to understand. The primary hormonal driver of this entire process is a compound called dihydrotestosterone, or DHT. DHT is not testosterone itself. It is what testosterone becomes when an enzyme in your body called 5-alpha reductase gets to it. And DHT is dramatically more potent than regular testosterone when it comes to prostate tissue. It binds to receptors inside prostate cells and essentially flips a switch that tells those cells to multiply. This is so important to understand because the solution is not, and I want to emphasize this, the solution is not to eliminate testosterone. Testosterone is essential. It drives your energy, your muscle mass, your mental sharpness, your mood, your libido, and so much more. Attacking testosterone would be like burning your house down to kill a spider. The goal is far more precise. The goal is to reduce the conversion of testosterone into DHT, or to make prostate cells less responsive to DHT's growth-promoting signals. And this is exactly, with remarkable biological precision, where certain foods become extraordinarily powerful. But DHT is only half the story, because there is a second major driver of prostate enlargement that deserves equal attention, and that is chronic inflammation. As men age, low-grade systemic inflammation tends to build throughout the body. Researchers have started calling this inflammaging, a slow, smoldering fire that nobody can see, but that quietly damages tissues and organs across the board. And prostate tissue is particularly vulnerable to it. When inflammatory compounds accumulate in prostate tissue, they trigger the release of growth factors that push cells to divide and multiply. They generate oxidative stress that damages cellular DNA and disrupts the normal regulatory mechanisms that keep cell growth in check. The result is an internal environment that essentially feeds prostate enlargement from a second direction simultaneously. So any serious natural strategy for prostate health needs to accomplish two things at once. First, interrupt the testosterone to DHT conversion pathway. Second, calm chronic inflammation and neutralize oxidative stress within prostate tissue. And as you're about to discover, certain nuts accomplish both of these things with a sophistication that genuinely rivals pharmaceutical interventions. Let's begin with what the research consistently identifies as the single most powerful food for prostate health, the Brazil nut. If you take one thing away from everything I share with you today, let it be this. Brazil nuts are the richest dietary source of selenium on the entire planet. Not one of the richest. The richest. A single Brazil nut contains somewhere between 70 and 90 micrograms of selenium, which exceeds the total daily recommended intake for an adult male in one bite. And selenium's relationship with prostate health is one of the most extensively studied nutrient-organ connections in modern nutritional science. Selenium is an essential trace mineral that serves as the foundational building block for a family of proteins called selenoproteins. Among the most critical of these is an enzyme called glutathione peroxidase, one of your body's most powerful internally manufactured antioxidants. Glutathione peroxidase neutralizes the reactive molecules, hydrogen peroxide and lipid peroxides, that cause serious oxidative damage to cells when left unchecked. In prostate tissue specifically, this oxidative stress has been shown to accelerate cellular proliferation and directly contribute to glandular enlargement. But selenium's benefits extend well beyond antioxidant defense. Research has demonstrated that adequate selenium levels are associated with measurably reduced activity of inflammatory pathways within prostate tissue. Selenium modulates the expression of specific inflammatory signaling molecules called cytokines, essentially the chemical messengers that sustain and amplify chronic inflammation. By dialing down these signals, selenium helps eliminate one of the two primary environmental triggers feeding prostate growth. And then there is the cellular regulation piece, which is perhaps the most fascinating of all. Research suggests selenium may influence how prostate cells respond to hormonal growth signals, including those from DHT. While it doesn't directly block the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, selenium appears to support a process called apoptosis, the natural, programmed elimination of old, damaged, or unnecessary cells. When apoptosis functions properly in prostate tissue, cells that have been stimulated to grow are naturally balanced by cells that are removed. Selenium helps maintain this balance. Without adequate selenium, that balance tips in favor of uncontrolled growth. Now here is a critical practical note. Because Brazil nuts are so extraordinarily concentrated in selenium, 1 to 2 per day is your target. That's it. This is not a food where more equals better. Excessive selenium intake over time can cause adverse effects. 1 or 2 Brazil nuts gives you the optimal dose for prostate support with zero risk of overconsumption. It is one of the simplest and most effective single nutritional habits a man over 40 can adopt. Moving now to the second food on this list, and one with a nutritional profile genuinely unlike any other nut you will find, the walnut. Walnuts stand apart from virtually every other nut because they are by far the richest nut source of alpha-linolenic acid, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. While alpha-linolenic acid is not identical to the omega-3s found in fish oil, your body converts a meaningful portion of it into EPA and DHA, the longer chain forms most powerfully associated with anti-inflammatory effects throughout the body. The anti-inflammatory properties of walnuts are both substantial and well documented. Omega-3 fatty acids work at the membrane level, competing with pro-inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids for incorporation into cell membranes throughout the body. When cell membranes contain more omega-3s, the inflammatory signals produced by those cells are significantly reduced. Over weeks and months of consistent consumption, this shift meaningfully reduces the inflammatory burden on prostate tissue. But walnuts have another trick that has the research community genuinely excited. They are rich in compounds called L-tannins, which your gut bacteria convert into a metabolite called urolithin A. Urolithin A has demonstrated significant anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects in emerging research, and scientists are increasingly interested in its potential role in supporting healthy cellular aging, including the proper regulation of cell growth and division in tissues like the prostate. And then there is the zinc connection. The prostate gland accumulates zinc at concentrations higher than almost any other tissue in the human body. This is not a coincidence. Zinc has been shown to directly inhibit the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, the very enzyme that converts testosterone into prostate-enlarging DHT. When zinc concentrations in prostate tissue are adequate, this conversion happens less efficiently. Less DHT means less stimulation of prostate cell growth. Research has consistently found that men with significant prostate problems have meaningfully lower zinc concentrations in their prostate tissue compared to men with healthy prostates. This pattern appears across study after study. A small daily handful of walnuts, roughly 7 to 10 whole walnut halves, provides omega-3 fatty acids, L-tannins, and zinc, addressing prostate health through 3 distinct and complementary pathways simultaneously. The third food I want to walk you through is technically a seed rather than a nut, but it earns its place on this list so decisively that leaving it out would be a genuine disservice. Pumpkin seeds have been used in traditional European medicine as a specific remedy for prostate support for hundreds of years, particularly in Germany and Eastern Europe, where they were a standard folk intervention long before modern science existed to explain why they worked. Modern science has now caught up, and what it has found is remarkable. Pumpkin seeds contain a unique class of compounds called delta-7 sterols, which include a specific compound called beta-sitosterol. Beta-sitosterol is among the most rigorously researched natural compounds for prostate enlargement, and its effectiveness has been confirmed in multiple randomized, placebo-controlled clinical trials, the gold standard of medical research. Beta-sitosterol works through 3 distinct mechanisms. First, it appears to inhibit 5-alpha reductase directly, reducing the production of DHT at the source. Second, it inhibits the production of prostaglandins, potent inflammatory mediators that drive and sustain inflammation within prostate tissue. Third, and this is particularly meaningful for men dealing with active urinary symptoms, beta-sitosterol improves the function of the smooth muscle tissue in the bladder and prostate itself, leading to measurably improved urinary flow and more complete bladder emptying. Clinical studies on beta-sitosterol from pumpkin seeds have shown statistically significant improvements in urinary symptom scores, reduced nighttime urination, improved stream strength, decreased residual urine volume. These were not subtle trends. These were consistent, reproducible findings observed over periods of several weeks to several months of daily consumption. And beyond the beta-sitosterol, pumpkin seeds are among the single richest food sources of zinc available anywhere. A small handful provides roughly 7 to 8 milligrams. Combined with the beta-sitosterol content, pumpkin seeds function as a dual-action intervention, addressing both the hormonal DHT pathway and the inflammatory pathway simultaneously. The fourth food is the pecan, and I want to spend a moment here because pecans are genuinely underappreciated in this context. Pecans rank among the highest of all nuts on the ORAC scale, the measure of total antioxidant capacity in a food. But what makes pecans uniquely interesting for prostate health specifically is their exceptionally high content of a particular form of vitamin E called gamma-tocopherol. This distinction matters enormously. Most vitamin E supplements on the market contain alpha-tocopherol, which is a different form. Research specifically examining gamma-tocopherol has found that this particular form demonstrates stronger anti-inflammatory activity than alpha-tocopherol and is preferentially taken up by prostate tissue. Your prostate appears to have a specific affinity for it. In laboratory studies, gamma-tocopherol has been shown to inhibit the growth of prostate cells and to neutralize a particularly destructive class of free radicals called peroxynitrites, nitrogen-based reactive molecules that are among the most damaging species found in inflamed prostate tissue. By specifically targeting these molecules, gamma-tocopherol protects the DNA and cellular architecture within your prostate from the kind of oxidative damage that promotes disorganized, uncontrolled growth. Pecans also provide beta-sitosterol, the same 5-alpha reductase inhibiting compound found in pumpkin seeds, though at somewhat lower concentrations. And they contain meaningful amounts of manganese, which serves as a cofactor for an antioxidant enzyme called manganese superoxide dismutase that protects the mitochondria, the energy-producing structures inside every cell, from oxidative damage. A daily handful of pecans gives you gamma-tocopherol, beta-sitosterol, and manganese, all working together to reduce oxidative stress, quiet inflammation, and support normal prostate cell behavior across several mechanisms at once. The fifth food is the almond, perhaps the most universally consumed nut in the world, and one whose prostate benefits are consistently underappreciated. Almonds are an outstanding source of vitamin E in the alpha-tocopherol form, magnesium, and healthy monounsaturated fats. Magnesium is particularly relevant here because it plays a central regulatory role in the body's inflammatory response. Research has shown that magnesium deficiency is associated with elevated levels of C-reactive protein and other key inflammatory markers throughout the body. Since chronic inflammation is one of the 2 primary drivers of prostate enlargement, maintaining adequate magnesium levels is a foundational piece of any serious prostate support strategy. Almonds also contain meaningful concentrations of phytosterols, the same class of plant compounds that includes beta-sitosterol. While the concentrations are lower than what you find in pumpkin seeds, the amounts are still nutritionally significant, especially consumed daily as part of a consistent habit. The monounsaturated fats in almonds further support healthy cell membrane function and have been associated with reduced inflammatory signaling across multiple tissue types. What makes almonds particularly powerful as a long-term strategy is something simple but important. They are effortless to maintain as a daily habit. They are available in virtually every grocery store on Earth. They store well for weeks. They have a mild, pleasant flavor. They require no preparation. And consistency, as I will emphasize in a moment, is everything when it comes to these foods. The 6th and final food is the pistachio, and it earns its place because of a nutrient combination that makes it uniquely interesting for prostate support. Pistachios are rich in lutein and zeaxanthin, carotenoid antioxidants most commonly discussed in the context of eye health, but which demonstrate significant anti-inflammatory activity throughout the body, including in prostate tissue. They also contain meaningful amounts of beta-sitosterol, giving them the same DHT inhibiting properties we've discussed with pumpkin seeds and pecans. Among commonly consumed nuts, pistachios have one of the highest potassium to sodium ratios of any food, which supports healthy fluid balance and may indirectly support urinary function. And their fat profile, high in monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fatty acids relative to saturated fat, supports the cardiovascular health that is intimately connected to prostate health, since adequate blood flow to the pelvic region is necessary for the nutrient and immune factor delivery that keeps prostate tissue functioning normally. Now let me bring this all together, because the real power is not in any single one of these foods, it is in the combination. Each of these foods works through slightly different but overlapping mechanisms. Brazil nuts provide unmatched selenium for antioxidant defense and cellular regulation. Walnuts deliver omega-3 fatty acids and zinc for anti-inflammatory support and DHT reduction. Pumpkin seeds offer concentrated beta-sitosterol and zinc for direct 5-alpha reductase inhibition and meaningful symptom relief. Pecans contribute gamma-tocopherol for targeted antioxidant protection, specifically within prostate tissue. Almonds supply magnesium and phytosterols for broad anti-inflammatory support, and pistachios add carotenoid antioxidants, additional beta-sitosterol, and cardiovascular support. When you combine even small daily amounts of several of these foods, you are addressing prostate health from virtually every biological angle simultaneously. You are reducing DHT production, calming chronic inflammation, neutralizing oxidative stress, supporting healthy cellular growth patterns, and maintaining the mineral concentrations that your prostate tissue depends on to function properly. The practical application is beautifully simple. 1 or 2 Brazil nuts, a small handful of walnuts, maybe 7 or 8 halves, a tablespoon of raw pumpkin seeds, and a few almonds, pecans, or pistachios. That is your daily combination. It takes 30 seconds to put together. It costs almost nothing compared to supplement regimens. It requires no dramatic dietary overhaul, and it targets the root causes of prostate enlargement through multiple evidence-based pathways simultaneously. Now, I want to be honest with you about expectations because this matters. These foods are not a drug. You are not going to eat a handful of walnuts tonight and wake up with a transformed prostate tomorrow morning. What you are doing when you eat these foods consistently is gradually shifting your body's internal biochemistry in a direction that is fundamentally hostile to prostate enlargement and the inflammation that feeds it. The research showing significant benefits consistently involve daily consumption over periods of several weeks to several months. The mechanism is real, the evidence is solid, but the timeline requires patience and, most critically, consistency. Consistency is everything here. These are not foods to eat occasionally. They are foods to eat every single day as a non-negotiable habit, the same way you might take a daily supplement or drink a glass of water every morning. One final practical note. Pay attention to how you source and consume these foods. Raw or dry roasted nuts retain dramatically more of their beneficial compounds than nuts processed in industrial oils, coated in sugars, or heavily flavored. The less processing, the more therapeutic value remains intact. For pumpkin seeds specifically, raw and unsalted is the gold standard for preserving both the beta-sitosterol content and the zinc. The information is in your hands. The strategy is simple. The science is real. What happens next is entirely up to you.